In the waning months of 1691, a frigid winter descended upon the small Puritan settlement. It was a place of stark simplicity, where life was governed by hard work and unyielding faith. The forests that surrounded them were vast and dark, believed by many to be the devil's dominion. Within the flickering firelight of their modest homes, whispers of old-world superstitions mingled with the austere teachings of their faith. Life was a constant battle between light and dark, salvation and damnation, and the line between them was growing perilously thin. The air itself seemed heavy with an unspoken dread, a premonition of the shadows that were gathering at the edge of their world, waiting for the right moment to creep in. It began in the minister's own house, a place that should have been a bastion of piety. His young daughter and niece, trapped by the monotony of a brutal winter, began to exhibit strange and terrifying afflictions. They would contort their bodies into impossible shapes, scream as if tortured by unseen hands, and utter blasphemous cries that chilled the soul. The local physician, a man of science and reason, could find no earthly cause for their torment. Faced with a mystery beyond his understanding, he offered a single, terrifying word: witchcraft. The word spread like a contagion, first in hushed whispers behind closed doors, then in open accusations in the meeting. The seeds of fear, once planted, began to sprout in the fertile ground of suspicion. The first to be accused were those who lived on the fringes of society. A beggar who mumbled to herself, a woman of mixed race who told fortunes, and another who had long been suspected of ungodly behavior. They were easy targets, women without power or influence, their strangeness easily mistaken for malevolence. Dragged before the magistrates, they were subjected to relentless questioning. The afflicted girls, present in the courtroom, would writhe and scream, claiming the accused were tormenting them in spirit form. Under intense pressure, one of the women confessed. She spoke of a dark man who offered her a book to sign in blood, of spectral meetings and pacts with the devil. Her confession was a spark thrown onto dry tinder. It validated the community's deepest fears and transformed suspicion into certainty. The hunt had begun. The circle of accusations widened with each passing day. Respectable churchgoers, pious mothers, even a former minister, found themselves named. Accusations became a currency, a way to settle old scores, to climb land, or to deflect suspicion from oneself. A spectral world, once confined to nightmares, had bled into reality. Witnesses testified to seeing the accused fly through the night air, transform into animals, and torment them from afar. Physical evidence was unnecessary. The visions of the afflicted were accepted as undeniable proof. The jails swelled with the accused, their numbers growing from a handful to over 100. The community was tearing itself apart, neighbor turning against neighbor, daughter against mother. The very fabric of their society was unraveling under the weight of paranoia. Then came the trials. A special court was convened, tasked with rooting out the devil from their midst. The proceedings were a grim spectacle. The courtroom was a theater of hysteria, where the shrieks and convulsions of the accusers held more weight than any denial or testimony of good character. The accused stood, bewildered and terrified, as they were condemned by phantom evidence and forced confessions. To deny the charges was to be found guilty and sentenced to hang. To confess, however, was to be spared the gallows, but it meant validating the madness and naming others to save oneself. It was a devil's bargain. The first to hang was a woman who staunchly maintained her innocence to the very end. As she stood on the gallows, she recited the Lord's Prayer perfectly, a feat believed impossible for a witch. For a moment, the crowd wavered, but the hysteria was too strong, the fear too deep. The execution proceeded. The summer was a season of death. Week after week, the condemned were led to a barren hill overlooking the village. They hanged from the branches of a great oak, their bodies a stark warning to any who dared to doubt. Men and women, young and old, met their end. One elderly farmer, a man known for his stubborn integrity, refused to enter a plea. He would not confess to a lie, nor would he dignify the court with a defense. For his defiance, he was subjected to an ancient and brutal punishment. He was laid in an open field, and heavy stones were piled upon his chest, one by one, to press a plea from him. With his dying breaths, he did not confess. He only gasped for more weight, choosing to die under the crushing burden rather than betray his conscience. His death marked a turning point. The sheer brutality of it shocked many into questioning the proceedings. As autumn leaves began to fall, so too did the foundations of the trials. Influential ministers from neighboring towns began to openly criticize the reliance on spectral evidence, calling it unreliable and unholy. Tegobanor, whose own wife was now rumored to be among the accused, finally intervened. He halted the proceedings and disbanded the court. The remaining prisoners were eventually released, their names cleared but their lives shattered. A silence fell over the village, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the heavy, suffocating silence of shame and regret. The land itself seemed to bear the scars of the madness that had consumed it. The fields lay fallow, the homes felt empty, and the ghosts of the innocent seemed to linger in the cold autumn air. Years passed. The community slowly began the process of healing. Public apologies were made, and some of the convictions were reversed. But the stain remained. The events of that terrible year became a dark chapter in their history. A story told in hushed tones, a cautionary tale of how fear can turn a pious community into a mob. The fields were eventually tilled again, and life returned to a semblance of normalcy. But those who lived through it were forever changed. They had looked into the face of evil, but it was not the face of the devil they had imagined. It was their own. It was the reflection of their neighbors, their friends, their own fallible human hearts. The village still stands today, a modern town built upon the bones of its dark past. The graves of the victims are marked, memorials stand in their honor, and tourists walk the streets where the accused were once paraded. The story is told and retold, analyzed by historians, and sensationalized by storytellers. We try to understand it, to rationalize it, to put it safely in the past. We tell ourselves it was a product of its time, a unique madness born of isolation and religious extremism that could never happen again. But as you walk through those old graveyards at dusk, when the shadows grow long and the air turns cold, you can't help but feel it. The quiet hum of something ancient and patient. The fear was real. The deaths were real. And the darkness that fueled it all. It never truly went away. It simply waits, sleeping beneath the surface, for the next time we decide who the witches are.